Hey everyone. Okay, so I actually just want to talk about feet a little bit, attaching feet to objects. So this is kind of a little tray form. It's just a little, it's actually for a planter, but I want what I don't know if you guys ever do this, but you have these little planter trays, and then the planter trays, like hold a little bit of moisture, and then it molds under your table on the tabletop. So gross. So I'm making little feet for these guys. So there's a couple different ways that I approach feet on this. And what I'm kind of after and thinking about is like I'm gonna make little tripod feet, so 3 little feet, and they're just barely kind of up from the table. So not even, probably maybe, under half an inch. I'm just going to score this. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. I was thinking about it last night when I was thinking about adding feet. Last time, because I just did a series of these, I kind of just made 3 coils and then attached them. But I was thinking this might be a nice way to do it too, is to add a coil and then cut the feet into it. So I kind of wanted to see how that turned out. It's interesting. I think sometimes we can get into a weird headspace where everything we try has to work out. But the reality is, it doesn't have to. I haven't lost anything if I try this and it doesn't work. Because really it might save me time, or it might be a look that I'm after that is more appealing. And, why not give it a try? And so I'm just sort of adding this coil. I want to make sure that it's all the same sort of thickness, really well attached. This little bottom form's pretty set up, so I really want to make sure that it's married really well down here. Because this also might just give it a very different feel. I'll do one that has the little 3 tripod feet that I do, so you can sort of see the difference. I've been getting lots of plants in my home space. Over the past 6 months, I've kind of gone a little bit plant crazy. But I've just fallen in love with having green things in my space. And I think part of it, I think I've been a little more kind of thoughtful about what size plant I can have, and really about keeping plants alive. So I kind of buy small plants and then see if I can keep them alive. So that's why this little thing kind of works for me, because I'm buying little 4-inch potted plants. And then kind of seeing, I think that's still a little too high. So I'm just going to cut it down a little bit. What's great about this is it's got a little ruler so I can kind of see where it was. I'm just going to go down 1/4 inch. Oh, maybe it went down a little further. But that's okay. I don't want these to be crazy raised up, but I do want it to have a little lift in space and air underneath it. So, and then I'm just going to gently kind of pinch this edge because I want to give it a more finished edge before I decide how I want to do some cutouts. And this is another thing, I need to kind of be able to look at it and sort of see what I can see, and if it looks right. But I want this to have more of a rounded kind of edge, so I'm just gently adding a little water to that, give it a little more finished edge. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a mark and sort of divide this into 3, and I really just sort of eyeball that. Right, so I just made some little marks. You can kind of see where that's at. And now I have to decide what I want to do. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is come out a little bit. So I'm totally just winging it and eyeballing this. So I'm kind of using my marks as guides to determine where I want my foot to be. And then kind of just coming up here. I'm not going quite down to the base because I don't want to show all those score marks that I just made. And like you can totally, I'm just kind of like seeing what I like and if this is something that I want to do. Because the other thing I can do is I can just completely cut this off and decide it's not what I want to do and that I don't like the look of it, and I can just start again. So I'm just going to clean this up. So that guy's a little bit higher, so I can take that down a little bit. And, you know, I'm not a stickler for everything being like, you know, I know some people need to measure. I like to just sort of feel how it goes. Eyeball it a little bit. And now, so I'm just going to pinch this a little and soften out those marks and those edges. I don't want anything really sharp. Sorry, I'm all hunched over. Okay. Like I actually should be doing this. So, you know, it's much better to work at a better height. So, you know, this way I can actually see what I'm doing. So let me just show you. So there's like, just sort of pinching it gently versus letting it sit like this, right? Where it's like, it needs a little bit of touch to it. And so I kind of will soften it out. This is really soft clay, so I can kind of soften out that little swoop too that I did with the cheese cutter. And then when I'm setting these guys up and letting them dry, what I'm going to do is I just want to make sure that it sits, right? So you can kind of see the profile of that. It looks kind of cute. But I'm going to let it dry upside down for a while. I just wanted to kind of flatten it out a little bit, make sure that everything looked okay. What I will do is I will, a lot of times we'll take we got a little level in here that when I do things like this and I want it to be relatively level, I'll take my level to it, make sure none of my feet are a little higher than they should be. But typically things are pretty decent with the sunshine stick, and there's a little, but there's a little waver in my lip and the height of that because it's kind of a pinched object. But look, that's so cute. It's adorable. Okay, so I'm going to do that one. And really quick, I'll do one with just some little coils, okay? Well, like a little nut, or well, what do you want to call it? Like a nugget or something like that. Okay, so some soft clay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this little edge because I don't want it there. So I just use this little tiny Sureform. And it's just one of those ones you get at the clay store, or a little small one, and I just leave off the handle form. I just don't I don't need it on there. It takes up too much space. So you guys might be wondering what the white stuff in my clay is. So I've been adding some perlite to my clay, just wedging it in. And what happens is it kind of burns out and leaves these little pock marks, which I've been really it's just a looser way to handle the clay and kind of opens it up a little bit. Okay, so just cleaned it up. You can see. So one of the things about like handles or feet, we often struggle with getting them to be the right size. And so what I'll typically do is I'll make a little coil, you can kind of see, and then I will cut that into 3 even lengths of what I want my feet to be sometimes. I think that's about. So what I'll do is I'll take just a chunk. So I'm just going to take this and then I'm going to cut it into three even lengths. So it's relatively the same size. So, and that one needs a little more clay. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to form them into kind of little feet. And like wider at the bottom, narrower at the top. And this is they're just little blanks. They don't have to be identical, but they get me close to a similar size. I think this is how I did my other ones. Yeah, sometimes I forget in between. It's been a few weeks. since I made those other ones. Okay, you can see they're a little bit off size. This one had too much clay in it. So I want to start with a closer kind of situation there. Okay. So now I'm just going to add these. So I'm going to score it. Work a little lower for you guys. You can kind of see. So I'm going to score, score, score. Score, score, score. Let me show you a little bit. Okay, so that's all scored up nice. And if you haven't seen my scoring video, scoring is really important because I'm basically taking, a sort of soft leather hard form and then adding directly wet clay to it. And so I'm going to score these feet really well and add a little water, and then I'm just going to squish them on. And remember, I only wet one side. That helps sort of activate the wicking action of like this drier clay pulling some of that moisture in. And that to me really helps firm up that connection. Okay. Okay. And so these are on here now. I'm just going to shape them a little bit. I'm going to rib. And just clean up these connections. I just want nice sort of seam work. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and cut these off so that they're relatively even. And sometimes that takes a few passes. I usually want to make sure I'm cutting each one, so I will probably go down one more, even though it seems like a lot. Probably could have gone a little bit higher. But then, so you can see now they're kind of low. I have a lower profile. Move it up to this guy. And so now I'm just going to look at them and sort of just clean up. I don't want all of that to be the surface edge, so I really just want a high point on there, okay? And so I kind of taper it from the middle down. You can kind of see. So this is what it looked like before. This is closer to what I'm after. And a lot of times I think about that as far as like where will these be sitting, creating nice contact points for objects on the tabletop. People invariably push things around over a tabletop, so I want to minimize the amount of scratching things can happen. Okay, so now I'm just going to pinch these into a little neater. Here you go. Let me show you. So this is before, this is after on the pinching. You can kind of see. And so this is just a couple ways to address feet. There's so many ways to do it. So just play and remember that it's like adding a handle. You don't have to stay married to it. You can change your mind, and it's a relatively low risk kind of thing to really play with. But you can kind of see how cute that is. Gives a little shadow underneath. It's just a fun little object. So anyways, that's today's lesson in feet. Anyways, have a wonderful day. Thanks. Bye.